What's going on YouTube? It's Deej, back again with another video, and today we're talking about the Tennessee Titans, the 11th team out of 32 in our Fix the Franchise series. Excited to bring this video your way, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit that like button. If you're around here want to see more football content in your life, just hit that big red subscribe button. Of course, tell me what you would do to fix the Tennessee Titans this offseason, whether you're a Titans fan or just an NFL junkie like myself. What moves are you making in free agency? What trades can you make? Where do you think they're going in the NFL draft? Day 1, day 2, all that stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Tennessee down below. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about this team, but let's start talking about the GM hire they had, Ryan Carthon. I mean, I think that's an interesting hire to bring in, right? Like, guy from the San Francisco organization, and that background speaks to, like, hey, this sounds like a good hire. I mean, it's always tough to tell, right? Because the resume can be great, but if you're a bad decision maker and you were just kind of benefiting from people above you, there's no real way to kind of parse that out. So obviously feels like a guy that probably nailed the interview process, hence for why he got the job. Hopefully he does do a good job. But I am fascinated because I didn't think they were going to hire another GM. I thought it would just be, Ryan Cohen as the GM, and then Mike Vrabel on top of being the head coach would be the director of player personnel. And by the way, Mike Vrabel, if you're curious my thoughts, one of the best head coaches in the NFL in my opinion. So I'm interested to see how much Vrabel, like, how much say does he have? How much levity does he have with Carthon? I mean, like, I'd love to see what that power dynamic ultimately kind of looks like. So I'm fascinated. I can't wait to read some of that, draft process. What are some of the things people are saying? Is this a Vrabel guy? Is this a Carthon guy? All that sort of stuff. But 7-10 record last year, and that's after a 7-3 start. So yeah, not ideal. And the Titans were the number one seed, or not the number one seed. They were first in the AFC South and like a top 3 seed in the AFC through the first 10 weeks. And then they get dunked on by A.J. Brown. They fire John Robinson, and then they proceed to lose another 6 straight games, including Week 18 against the Jags. So they missed the playoffs. So tough way for the season to end for Tennessee, but let me talk about how I think this team can turn it around. They have 6 draft picks, no 4th rounder. That's the only pick they're missing. And then the real problem is minus 23 million, almost 24 million against the cap. That's 29th in the NFL. So how do you fix that? Well, I put in some names here, and I think honestly you got to release all 4 of these guys. Robert Woods, Taylor Lewan, Zach Cunningham. That saves you about $36 million, so you're already up and over by about $12 million over the cap. And then I think you got to cut Bud Dupree too. And hey, like, I'm a Steelers fan. Bud Dupree's a nice guy. Did a lot for the city of Pittsburgh, but he did not deserve that 5-year contract. I'm sorry, he just did not. And I think his play has proven it as much. So you release him, and boom, there's another $10 million. Now you're talking about this team having $20-ish million. But where this team gets tough is because, like, the guy on the thumbnail, Jeffrey Simmons, an absolute animal. One of the best interior defensive line players in the league. Treylon Burks, a guy I didn't really like. I mean, he was not in my tier 1. Like, last year, my wide receiver rankings, tier 1 was Jameson Williams, Drake London, and Garrett Wilson. Guys I thought could be 1s. And then my tier 2 was Chris Olave, a guy I thought was going to be a really nice number 2. But I think he even kind of proved me wrong and showcased I can be a 1. Minimum, though, we do know he's a really nice number 2. And then Burks was another step down because I was like, yeah, I think he's just going to be a nice player. Like, he can't be your 1. I think he's going to be a solid component. I would venture to say this past year we kind of saw that maybe he could be a 1. Again, bowling ball to bring down, so he is a yards after the catch, tank, literally. And then also the ability to make plays happen deep down the field. I mean, I think back to that touchdown against the Eagles where he gets absolutely demolished, still somehow holds on, but also he was wide open. Maybe that was an Eagles issue. I had to go back and look at the exact play in the tape, but this is a guy I think that was a lot better than I had anticipated coming into the season. Unfortunately, missed some time because of injuries, but I'm intrigued. All that to say, like, this team has young talent. It has pieces that I'm excited about, but then when you're releasing Zach Cunningham, it's like, okay, well, if you release Cunningham, David Long's also a free agent, so what are you doing at linebacker? If you release Robert Woods, you're already short on wide receiver talent, not named Treylon Burks, so what are you doing? Taylor Lewan, okay, but when he plays, he's really good, and Dennis Daly is not, so what are you doing at left tackle? Well, Dupree, you're already kind of short on edge talent, so if he's gone, who's the replacement? All these different things. Like, there's a lot to like about the Titans roster, but you have to make these 4 cuts and maybe even more to be able to get up and over the cap and improve the roster and fill the holes that they have. But by releasing these guys, you're releasing some solid players at positions that you already kind of need reinforcements in. So that's where this team gets tricky. But let's say they do make these 4 cuts and maybe even more. I think you re-sign David Long Jr. What a nice player he has become. A little undersized, but this dude is a coverage linebacker. That's what made him and Cunningham a perfect fit. Like, Cunningham, if the ball's in front of him, this guy can blitz. He can stop the run. He's great. If the play's in front of him, Cunningham's your guy. If it's talking about being, rangy in coverage and trying to, backpedal and make something happen, cover in the middle of the field, that's where David Long came in. And I actually think he's a really good player. So I think they should absolutely re-sign him. But because of him and Nate Davis's age, who we're going to talk about next, put these guys in their mid-20s. So I think they can get them for cheap. I could see that as a possibility. But because of their age, I feel like they're going to automatically be kind of, inflated. Just because signing a dude in his mid-20s kind of inherently comes with the idea of there being more potential to tap into. So I'd like to see them keep both those guys. And then Nate Davis, my rationale there is, like, if you're a Titans fan specifically, like, let me know what you think about Nate Davis, because he's kind of an interesting player. I think he got better in pass protection this year. Maybe a small step backwards, and his run blocking, PFF grades. But I think the pass protection step forward is bigger than the maybe a weaker year as a run blocker. And also, I look at this Titans team with a hole at left tackle and a hole at left guard. So I do not want to go into free agency or the draft also needing a right guard. So I just assumed if the contract's not too hefty, keep Nate Davis around. He's one of your own. He's in his mid-20s, so there is still, again, potential to be tapped into. And yeah, you already have two holes on basically the entire left side of your offensive line. So let's not make a third, because filling 3 offensive line holes is a headache. An absolute headache to do. So, yeah, and that's pretty much it for free agency. There are some players that I'd like to see them add, position groups in specific into your offensive line. Like, if you could sign a guard, keep Nate Davis, and sign a left guard, cool. I think that makes it even easier for you to be like, hey, we're going to go left tackle and wide receiver once we get to the draft, which we're going to talk about in 1 second. Edge, especially if you do move on from Bud Dupree, can you find someone for cheap? Awesome. That'd be great if you could. Tricky, but maybe. And then corner. This is a team that, I don't hate their cornerback situation. I think Christian Fulton's a good player. Caleb Farley is tricky, and I could honestly see them parting ways with him, and maybe a team that's really desperate for corner depth, or just a team that, wants to play, a game of risk. Like, I could see, honestly, I don't know if they do it, but San Francisco, if they just want to be like, hey, if Caleb Farley works out, we have an absolute stud at corner that we haven't had since Richard Sherman first got here. So if we can get him for a 3rd-round pick or whatever that cost is, it might be worth taking that shot. But also the Titans could keep him and see if they can make good on that 1st-round pick. So him, I really like Fulton, and Roger McCreary was better than I thought he would be. I really thought the short arms were going to be an issue, especially with him playing on the outside. And yeah, sometimes he got bodied, sometimes he got pushed around, and he was a little too small. But sometimes, even with the arm length, he was still able to get his hands on the football, poke it loose, and make some big plays. So I don't know, he's kind of an interesting player. I'm really excited to see what year 2 from McCreary looks like. But if they can add a corner for cheap, I'd be absolutely for it. Like if they signed a Kyle Fuller or something like that, I feel like that's a corner I always mention in these videos. But if they signed some like veteran corner for a 1-year deal for $4 or $5 million, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. More corners, the better, especially considering this team, unfortunately, last year did not play well in the secondary for the most part last year. So let's start talking about the draft, because I think this is where this team can really make some headway. Ideally, free agency is you're cutting those contracts, and then you're just patching up those holes. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of superstar talent. I actually don't think you're going to get any superstar talent, to be honest with you. I think it's all about, hey, like, okay, now there's no glaring weakness on this roster other than maybe left tackle. Like, I could see a world where it's like, this roster is stable, it's healthy, they just need another wide receiver and they need a left tackle. Which perfectly leads me into, like at 11, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, whoever your guy is, I think you take it. I kind of like the idea of adding a speed receiver, so that's where if you can get Quentin Johnston at 6'4", and plenty of speed, 4.3 guy in my opinion, if not that, low 4.4s, and pair him up with Treylon Burks, so yeah, his 40 time was disappointing, but still he's 4.5 speed at 6'3" and is an absolute tank to bring down. So those two guys on the outside for a run-heavy team, yeah, absolutely. And then if not that, then tackle, especially considering the tackles are going to go early. Like Broderick Jones, I think, should be the 3rd tackle off the board. To me, he's the 4th best tackle in this class, but I think it's going to be Skoronski or Paris Johnson Jr. is the 1st tackle. The other one then goes 2nd, and then Broderick Jones is the 3rd guy. He might be off the board by 13. So while you're there at 11, if you got Paris Johnson Jr. staring you in the face, or you got Peter Skoronski staring you in the face, you might want to take that. And honestly, those two guys might both be gone. Who knows? At 7 and 8, right? Like we could see Las Vegas and Atlanta take 2 tackles. And then at 11, you're like, hey, well, Broderick Jones is kind of a titan. He's kind of that mean people mover, strong, that's his profile. He kind of fits what we want to do. We'll draft him and make him our left tackle. So I feel like, honestly, I'd probably go tackle 11 just because I think there's not enough depth in that position group to last you until the 2nd round, because I love Anton Harrison, and he's my OT3. He could be there in the 2nd round at, 39, I think, 38 maybe. Maybe he's there. If not him, then, maybe take a shot on a Jalen Duncan, who's a good athlete, moves well, or Cody Mock, but I'm kind of thinking he's an interior guy with maybe the upside of moving to tackle in 2 years' time. Blake Freeland, maybe. But I think of him more as a late 2, early 3 kind of guy. So that's, you see the kind of my issue there. So I'd like to see them go tackle 11, and then at wide receiver in the second round, you can get a Jalen Hyde. Jackson Smith and Jigba could be there. Tank Dell could be there. Keyshawn Butte. You might be able to get him in the third round or fourth. He might be a day 3 guy. It's so hard to tell where his stock's at based off his off the field stuff. So yeah, I think you go tackle at 11, then wide receiver a little later. But if they were to, patch up the roster, be stable everywhere except for left tackle, wide receiver, and address those 2 needs with the first 2 picks of the draft, I think this team can be scary. I think they can be a contender in the AFC South. I do think, Trevor Lawrence is only getting better, so that certainly puts him behind the 8 ball. And you're going to need Ryan Tannehill to just be the best of himself for an entire year, which has not always held up, even when he's been good throughout the regular season. Then you get in the playoffs, and it's like, well, where'd Ryan Tannehill go? Oh, there he is. Same old guy that was in Miami, and, just ultimately is kind of a middle-of-the-road quarterback. So, anyway, it's not what we're talking about here. And then, the rest of the draft, adding another guard into your offensive line, adding a center, maybe the future, edge and corner. So the same position groups, IOL, edge rusher, and corner. If you can add some depth there, it's not going to be a bad thing. Because I think they can get better at all 3 of those spots. And who knows, one of those guys could be a total hit in the 4th round or the 5th round. Actually, they don't have a 4th rounder. So maybe one of those guys is a big hit in the 5th round, and boom, you have a perimeter corner. Or boom, you already have your Bud Dupree replacement right there. Or something like that. Or you find a Nate Davis replacement, who knows? So, yeah, I just think you attack those 3 positions throughout the rest of the draft. You have a 3rd, no 4th, but then, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Yeah, let it fly at those 3 spots. And then, I'm also intrigued by the idea. I don't think they should, and also the cap might not let them. But every year we see veterans traded for a 6th or a 7th, and it's often, veterans on a massive deal. But also, a lot of times those veterans are still good football players. A lot of times. Sometimes not, but sometimes they're pretty good football players still. So I wonder if they get the cap into a healthy enough spot, if they can make a trade for a tackle of some kind. I don't know who that would be. I really don't. Because I don't think Donovan Smith would be somebody they would trade a 7th for and take his $15 or $18 million against the cap. I don't even think I'd do that. So, maybe it's a corner that's available. Or maybe it's an edge rusher that they can get for a 7th. Hefty price tag, but it could be an upgrade over Bud Dupree, and you're already paying Bud Dupree a lot of money, so what's a different edge rusher getting in the bag, right? So I'd be interested to see if this team is in that market or not. Because if they're not, then that's fine. Use that 7th, use that 6th, use that 5th, whatever, on those 3 position groups already addressed. But you might be able to get away with something there and just have to pay a veteran a lot of money. But if he's good and can help you win games, I think that's the focus right now for Tennessee. So final notes, I like the GM hire, and I like Mike Vrabel as a head coach, and, Tannehill, I'm kind of throwing strays in his direction earlier on, but he's not bad. He's fine. He's solid. He's competent. He's, unfortunately, I did like Malik Willis. He was my #1 quarterback last year, based solely off upside because it was a terrible quarterback class. So if they're all going to be bad, I might as well swing for the fences. And Malik Willis was the guy with the most upside. But yeah, you saw a huge difference between Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis. Maybe Willis gets better with some time, but yeah, it feels like it's going to be Tannehill's gig to lose this year, unless things go really bad. Then they're just going to throw Willis out there to keep losing games and see what he's all about. But yeah, no, I like a lot of this roster. I think, unfortunately, though, with all the moves you have to make against those veterans, you're going to have to cut a lot of bad contracts. It's going to create more holes, which is tough. But if you cut those bad contracts and fix the offensive line, that's the biggest thing, because this team, its identity is Derrick Henry. So you have to have a competent offensive line. Otherwise, Derrick Henry is just getting tackled at the line. He is having to do way too much on his own. And he's a running back on the wrong side of 30. So if they can fix up that offensive line and make it back to the heydays, the dominance of Derrick Henry, which he's still good, he's still dominant, don't get me wrong, but if we can get back to the days of him not being touched 4 or 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, okay, that's when Tennessee gets frightening. And then you add that speed receiver with Treylon Burks, the play-action game off of that, I mean, the script writes itself. That's how the Tennessee Titans will win games next year. So bleed the clock, that makes the defense that much better, keeps them fresh, all that sort of stuff. So I think you cut those bad contracts, fix the offensive line through free agency, getting a tackle in the draft. I think that's your move right there. And, like I said, I think Trevor Lawrence is only getting better. The Texans' rebuild is just now finally getting underway. If the Colts get Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, or I'm a big Will Levis guy, if they get the quarterback position right, I'll say, the Colts are scary. So, I mean, this is an AFC South division that is just slowly but steadily emerging. So I'm really interested to see where the Titans go. And if, with a good offseason, they could be right there towards the top of it, or the bad offseason, a lot of those veterans being gone, they could become the team that is the bottom feeder of the division. So wait and see, but yeah, I think it's a really fascinating team. It's a team that if I were the GM, I'd be excited, because I think there's some really good moves you can make, especially in the draft for this team and their needs. But let me know whether you're a Titans fan or just an NFL fan like myself. What would you do to fix the Titans? What cuts are you making during free agency? Who should be those signings? Who are you looking at in the draft? How do you rank the tackles? Do you think the Titans are in on one more than the other? Love to hear your thoughts. What wide receiver makes a lot of sense? So all that stuff. Love to hear your feedback and your thoughts about the Tennessee Titans down below in the comment section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new right here, want to see more football content, plenty more coming your way if you hit that big red subscribe button. But that's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Teej, and I'm signing off.